Welcome to another edition of your magazine of the movies, Let's Talk Criterion. And in this edition we take a look at a film following the making of Werner Herzog's film Fitzcarraldo. That's Les Blanc's Burden of Dreams, coming to the collection on 4K UHD. Documentarians in the Criterion collection proved popular with D.A. Pennebaker, leading the field with his films Don't Look Back, Company and the Monterey Pop Festival. We've Laura Poitras's All the Beauty in the Bloodshed, David and Albert Maisel's Grey Gardens, Terry Zweigoff's Crumb, as well as Errol Morris's A Brief History of Time, and Wim Wenders' Buena Vista Social Club and Anselm. There are many others, of course, in the collection. Documentarian Les Blanc's work in the collection includes Always for Pleasure and A Poem is a Naked Person. And now we have Burden of Dreams. Les was an uncompromisingly independent filmmaker who made documentary features for more than 50 years, elegantly disappearing with his camera into cultural spots rarely seen on screen, most of which of course were on the periphery of the United States, but he worked occasionally abroad. Now, he worked closely, of course, with the German director Werner Herzog, especially during the shooting of his film Fitzcarraldo on location. Filmmaker Werner Herzog had an idea for an opus that was based on a historical story he had heard of where a rubber baron in the Amazon jungle had transported an entire ship from one river over a hill to another. Now, this prompted a whole new story about an opera-loving Irishman called Fitzgerald, who the natives called Fitzcarraldo, and his dream of bringing the music he loved to the middle of nowhere. He would build an opera house in the jungle and invite Caruso there to perform. Now, the film was eventually made, but not after many years of hardship and problems. Luckily for posterity, documentary filmmaker Les Blanc was on hand to record what happened. Now, as the film was being made in such a remote location, Herzog and his crew had to rely on the local Indians there to provide labour, actors and extras for them, and that hit a snag early on when the tribes of the region of Ecuador, where they began, got caught up in infighting and land rights disputes, leading to death threats and eventually to the crew having to flee. They settled elsewhere downriver and managed to shoot about 40% of the film until the star, Jason Robards, fell seriously ill and had to return to America, with co-star Mick Jagger following soon afterwards due to touring and album commitments. Blanc shows a few tantalising scenes here of their footage, a glimpse of what might have been. So it was that Herzog's old friend, well, accomplice really, Klaus Kinski, was roped in to star in the film, and funnily enough he turned out to be the least of Herzog's worries. Yes, he was temperamental, with all the waiting around he had to suffer, but it was really the elements that were Herzog's biggest enemy here. The delays meant that the river was at a low tide as the rainy season was now over, so shooting on the water was precarious as the ship might easily run aground. But the real sticking point was that the director's biggest effect, the sole reason for making the film in the first place, was providing the biggest single headache and threatened to end the process once and for all. So what was that? Well, it was the centrepiece of the film. It was the ship. He had to pull it over a hill, just as the Fitzcarraldo of history had not exactly done. He dismantled his ship and reassembled it on the other side, and with the muddy conditions and faltering pulley system, it was taking months for anything to get done. Through it all, as all around are losing their heads, Herzog gives the impression of having lost his mind some time ago, as one damn thing after another holds up his ambitions. It's near the end where the director finally breaks down and rants to Blanc's camera in a brilliant monologue about how the jungle is a place of nightmare where birds shriek in pain and even the stars in the sky look a mess. Burden of Dreams is darkly funny, but also painful and exasperating that it's only the fact that the project was completed that makes it possible at all to be optimistic about the chaotic events depicted. Herzog is also preoccupied by river levels, vital if the ship is to maintain its course, the hazards of remote locations, bugs, filth, snakes, frequent arrow attacks from rival tribes, and increasing hostility and impatience from the crew. He's also consumed with the need to preserve the local culture, although he's no illusions about the environment in which they're filming. Herzog is refreshingly unsentimental regarding nature, saying, with blunt honesty, "I love it against my better judgment." While he doesn't necessarily believe in God, he does say that if such a being exists, if, no doubt, it was creating the land out of anger and spite. When so many well-meaning stewards of the earth speak to a knave coexistence, if not mastery, Herzog understands that we're engaged in a bloody and losing battle for our very humanity. Now, he tries to do right by his enormous staff, even bringing in local prostitutes to soothe frayed nerves. But all efforts are compromised by his disregard for anything other than his magnificent obsession. A good example here is when it is suggested that a 20-degree slope would allow for a smoother transfer of the boat. He decides to use 40 degrees, solely because his metaphor would be lost if the task weren't as daunting as possible. And this might be when Kinski speaks directly to the camera in the film for one of the only times, in fact, he refers to the effing stinking camp. Bodies are crushed, caked in mud, thrown into unwinnable situations and treated like cogs in a self-destructive machine. But Herzog's vision prevails, as it must. He is the artist. These are his dreams, and if failure dooms the project, he alone must answer to the suits and, more importantly, himself. Now, the 2024 breathtaking 4K frame-by-frame restoration and remastering of the film, featuring 5.1 sound, and involves replacing all pre-recorded and live music, spanning over 2 years of meticulous work. The restoration was executive produced by Harold Blank, Les Blank's son, and financed by Les Blank Films Incorporated. That's a non-profit that the director created before his death. The picture was conformed by Anthony Matt, colour corrected by Paul Cope, and then cleaned and restored using Diamond software by Anthony Matt. Maureen Gosling, who recorded and edited the original film, also worked on quality control and assisted in the mix and audio tweaks, and all of the audio restoration work was done by Nick Berg. The film received a BAFTA for Best Documentary Feature in 1983. Now, it comes to the collection with 2 discs, a 4K UHD with the film and a Blu-ray with the film and these special features. New 4K digital restoration supervised by filmmaker Harold Blank, director Les Blank's son, with 5.1 surround DTS HD master audio soundtrack. Alternate uncompressed monaural soundtrack, audio commentary featuring Les Blank, editor and sound recordist Maureen Gosling, and Fitzcarraldo director Werner Herzog. Interview with Herzog. Werner Herzog Eats His Shoe from 1980, a short film by Blank. Deleted scenes, behind the scenes photos taken by Gosling, a trailer, and as usual we have an essay by the film scholar Paul Arthur and a book of excerpts from Blank's and Gosling's production journals for the film. And the cover art for the film, it's illustrated by Richard May, with the design provided by Martin Ogulter. Documentary filmmaker Les Blank captures the unfolding of this production, made more perilous by Herzog's determination to shoot the most daunting scenes without models or special effects, including a sequence requiring hundreds of indigenous locals to pull a full-size 310-ton steamship over a small mountain. And the result is an extraordinary document of the filmmaking process and a unique look into the single-minded mission of one of cinema's most fearless directors. The film has a running time of 96 minutes and it comes in an aspect ratio of 1:33:1 and it's in English and German, and it's already in the collection A Spine 287, and it releases on Tuesday the 11th of November in the US only. And of course, now up and running is the Barnes & Noble 50% off sale. And many people have been bringing their short list of films together and going to the store and browsing the shelves for their favourite Criterion titles. And picking them up, of course, at half price, including the big box sets, which have proved very, very popular during this particular time. And of course, Barnes & Noble are offering 50% of all the coming releases for the whole month of November. So get your pre-orders in now online or pop down to the store whenever the release is on the actual shelves. Next time on Let's Talk Criterion, we'll be taking a closer look at the Blu-ray edition of the Eclipse film series from Iranian director Abbas Kiarostami. So until next time, from me, as always, it's goodbye, and above all, good Criterion viewing.